What is happening? What is up? It's NFL Week 13. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Let's break down some plays. Now, I've got a couple of plays I'm going to sprinkle throughout the video for Thanksgiving Day, but the majority of this video is going to be an early look format. If you watched my video last week, we had over 6,000 viewers on it. We had great takes that got you ahead of when the lines were coming out, and people were smashing it and making money. I had people hop in the Discord. I'm going to do the same thing I did last week. If you are hopping in the Discord, do me a favor in the general chat. Shout what's up. Let me know you're there from YouTube. I appreciate you guys. Now, the first guy on the board I've got to look at is CJ Stroud. The Jags are giving up the most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks, and all the stats are right there to back it up. They are second highest in passing yards allowed to only the Ravens. They're second highest to the Texans, believe it or not, in touchdowns allowed through the air. I love Nico Collins this week. I think he's a great match to pair with CJ Stroud. We saw it last week. I called that he was going to score a touchdown, came out and went ballistic. We cashed his over 71.5 receiving yards, and I like to go back to this again. Look at this, yards per attempt. The Jags are giving up 8.47 yards per attempt through the air. Play CJ Stroud over passing yards. Play Nico Collins as well, and sit back and collect your money. Guys, I need you to do me a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, but drop me a comment. I get far too few comments, and that's the biggest YouTube algo booster you can find. So do me a favor, please. Just drop me a comment. All it has to be is an emoji, whatever you guys want. We could have a short conversation. We could have a long conversation. I appreciate you guys. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to play Bryce Young. But what I am going to do is tell you that this game has sneaky shootout potential. We've got Tampa Bay and Carolina. Bryce Young looked much more comfortable last week. Now, Jatavian Sanders did sustain an injury. I haven't checked the latest news on that. He is a guy I would want to see in that lineup before I would really be comfortable rolling out Bryce Young. But I think you could build out a little SGP of each guy to go over 200 yards passing. Maybe probably put Baker Mayfield at 225 plus. He's got Mike Evans back. This is a good matchup. As you can see, both of these teams are weak against opposing quarterbacks. Buccaneers second worst and the Panthers sixth worst. This is an interesting SGP spot. Now, we can't talk about the NFL Week 13 without talking about the Eagles and the Ravens. Not in my opinion, but it is a potential Super Bowl matchup here. I don't think that's how things end up shaking out, but it's going to be a good game. You've got the Eagles and the Ravens. The Ravens, as we know, are terrible against the pass. The Eagles are much stouter, much more stout against the pass. Their defense is playing really, really well. However, as the Ravens are not, I think this is an interesting spot to attack Jalen Hurts. I'd want to look at his passing yardage. I'd probably want to take a look at his over 1.5 passing touchdowns as well. I know you've got Saquon there to gobble up all the touchdowns, but I do think the Ravens really try to focus in and stop Saquon to the best of their ability, put some over-the-top help on A.J. Brown, and see if Jalen Hurts can go out there and beat him. Now, before I jump into looking at the running back position, as I said, I'm going to sprinkle Thanksgiving plays throughout the video, and I've got an interesting one for you to take a look at. DeAndre Swift over 13.5 receiving yards is a minus 113 on FanDuel. This line is set at 2.5, juiced to the under. Not a great sign usually for this bet. However, hear me out. When seeing at least 2 receptions, so let's just say he gets 2 receptions in this game, he's been over this line in 5 of 6 games. I believe that the negative game script that he is going to face in this game finds Swift catching actually more passes than that 2.5. I don't care what the books say. I think he catches more than 2.5 passes. So that's an interesting angle for you if you want to take that as well. But I'm really interested in his over 13.5 receiving yardage prop. We saw last week he ran like a wheel route down the sidelines and caught like a 27-yard over-the-shoulder pass. We know that he has good hands for a running back. I like DeAndre Swift over 13.5 receiving yards. Looking at the running back position, we've got the Commanders, the Panthers, And we'll skip right over that third team there as being the three weakest teams in the NFL against opposing running backs. I'm going to really focus on the Panthers. The Panthers are a team that we've been attacking all year for opposing running backs. And we've got Rachaad White, which I want to see what's going on. I don't have anything out for him right now. Bucky Irving's a guy that's interesting to me because he's been over his line the last 2 weeks, 60.5 on Prizepicks, 59.5 on Underdog. He saw a 46% and a 52% snap share the last 2 weeks. As I said, 73, 87 rushing yards the last 2 weeks, 12 attempts and 13 attempts. He had a 56-yarder last week he ripped off, averaged 7.3 rushing yards. But even without that one the week before, 5.6. He's seeing more touches in the red zone at 3 and 2, so 5 over the last 2 games. And his yards after contact, 71 yards after contact last week. Broke off that big run. But even before that, he's been running the ball more. His snap share is creeping up. So I think you can attack the running backs in this game against the Panthers. Now, some have called me, and I've probably called myself this a few times, the Jonathan Taylor whisperer. And if you're in the Discord, you already know overall, Anthony Richardson being in this offense is good for Jonathan Taylor. The game script last week against Detroit was never going to be good for Jonathan Taylor. I had a little sprinkle on him for a touchdown because I thought if they get down in the red zone, they might give him the ball and he could get one and, sneak one in there. But it was never a game script that was favorable for Jonathan Taylor. However, against the Patriots, I do think is the time to play Jonathan Taylor. After what we saw last week, Richardson needs some help. He had guys dropping open passes, wide open touchdown. I'm looking at you, Ogletree. And I think they lean back into getting the ball into JT's hands a little bit more, even though Richardson is starting to show flashes that he is more than capable of handling this offense. I think they come out with a heavy dose of Jonathan Taylor, especially in the first half. Last week, they went away from him in the second half because of the game script. I don't think that happens this week. So I think you're going to see 4 quarters of Jonathan Taylor running the ball. I'm interested in his his rushing attempts and also his yardage. I think they're very, very, very safe this week. You're probably looking at like 71, 75.5 rushing yardage. So I like that for Jonathan Taylor this week. This is the week to play him and sprinkle the little anytime touchdown for him. Now, there's a couple of guys in the middle of this pack here that have some good matchups. We're looking at Kamara, Breece Hall. Obviously, the tandem in Detroit has a great matchup for Thanksgiving. I prefer Gibbs. I've been leaning more Gibbs since really the middle of last season when Gibbs came out and really showed me that he was the better back. And make no mistake about it, David Montgomery is very good. Gibbs is the better back. And I think that Detroit is even starting to go in that direction a little bit more. Montgomery will always get the red zone carries or, a decent amount of red zone touches. He'll always get a drive here and there given to him too. So he's definitely going to be viable. But Gibbs is the guy that can break off the big play. Gibbs is the better rusher. I mean, could David Montgomery score and Gibbs not? Absolutely. It's the NFL, is volatile. However, I think the highest likely percentage, the best chance of success is with Gibbs. So that was my long rant to say play Gibbs this week. And, we've got a couple other good matchups. I've seen a ton of people on Tyrone Tracy. I think it's fine. I actually think that this game script might not go their way. And I think that they try to get Neighbors involved pretty heavily, especially after he had that interview last week where he just basically called everybody out. You got to ask Dable why I'm not getting the ball. And then they're all fired. And it's a whole new coaching staff. I think these guys that are being promoted within say, okay, we're going to get Neighbors 12 to 13 touches. We're going to get our best player on offense a lot of touches. Not saying that Tyrone Tracy won't get his, but I think they really make a conscious effort to feed Neighbors. And I think Neighbors ends up having a big week this week. But the guy I'd be looking at over Tracy is Kyron Williams right here against the Saints. So that's going to be an interesting game as well. Ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor. I would be a terrible streamer if I didn't say these words. Please like the video. Drop me a comment. Last week, you guys were so generous with your comments. You can ask me start-sit questions. You can leave me an emoji. You can ask me player prop lines, all these things, my opinion, anything you want. Most importantly, leave me comments, subscribe to the channel, and check out the Discord. I'm going to pin the Discord link in the comments below. Check out the Discord. It's free. Hop in, say what's up in the general chat. Let me know you came over from YouTube. Let's chat it up in there. You can ask myself. You can ask all these other sharp people we have in there the questions that you have, and we'd be happy to have you. Now, as I said, sprinkle in those little breadcrumbs, another Thanksgiving play. I already hinted at Gibbs, so that's technically a second one I'm going to give you there because I like the Gibbs anytime touchdown, and I'm very interested in his rushing yardage prop too. But that's not even the other one. That was just a bonus for you guys, okay? It is the season of giving thanks, is it not? And generosity. Jonnu Smith from Miami, over 40 and a half receiving yards. It's a minus 122 on better right now. The next best line is over 41 and a half on Prizepicks. Green Bay runs 32% cover 3 defense, which is the coverage Smith excels against the most. He averages 0.79 fantasy points per route run. He's excellent at finding the soft spots in the zone coverage and the seams, and he's had great success with Tua, seeing 19 targets over the last 2 weeks. So much so that even Tyreek tweeted out a meme the other day about it. That's how much love Jonnu Smith is getting. Smith has seen his snap rate go from the mid 40s to the middle low upper 70s the last few weeks. And a bonus, he saw 4 red zone targets last week. Take that for what you will. Guys, looking at this list, what stands out to you? All right. You see that guy last week made us a boatload of money on Sunday Night Football. A.J. Brown. This is an A.J. Brown spot, is it not? This is an A.J. Brown potential ladder spot too. Like I said, the way you attack these Ravens is through the air. Now, obviously, Saquon's going to come out and still get his. And could he vulture a couple of touchdowns from A.J. Brown? Absolutely. So no anytime touchdowns are always volatile if you're playing them. However, of course, I like the anytime touchdown. You'll probably get it at a plus 120, plus 130, something like that if you jump on it early. It might shift down to like even money, plus 105, something like that by the end. I also think that you can ladder his yardage in this one too. To me, this is the ladder spot. Now, I don't think he gets too many receptions. I don't know if they're going to pepper him, but I do think that he can get a couple of 25, 30, 35-yard plays. And as well, listen, as well as we're going to look at his longest reception prop. We cashed that last week too. Had a touchdown for him, had the yardage. A.J. Brown cashed us out last week. This is a spot to go right back to the well on him. Now, I think Marvin Harrison is fine here. I had no qualms against him, but I'm dropping one more spot down to my boy Nico Collins. Over is probably going to be somewhere probably around 77 and a half, 79 and a half, something like that. It might even creep up into the 80s. Play it while you can, because then it's pretty much going to always be 80 or above soon. So I like that as well. I think this is a great spot to attack. As I said, a Jaguars team that has a weak pass defense. One thing I forgot to mention is Nico has been over this line in 3 out of 3 games against the Jags, and CJ has been over his passing yardage prop in all 3 games as well against the Jags. A couple other guys that stand out to me on this list: Brian Thomas Jr., always in play, especially in the division matchup where they're going to need to score. I think Brian Thomas for a touchdown is interesting. Love Ladd McConkey. The guy is a man beater. He is a great route runner, and he is showing that is translated from the college level to the NFL. Quentin Johnson couldn't catch a cold last week, and that was unfortunate because the week before, listen, all of 2023, I'm like, Quentin ain't it. Quentin is not the guy. He had a bad year all last year. Then he comes in this year, and the guy looked incredible. I watched him. He looks slimmer. He looks fast. Last year, he looked like Mike Williams, where he could get no separation. This year, I thought he looked great. Last week, put a little money on him, turned into a goose, turned into a duck. I don't know what the expression is. He turned into something not good. I tell you that much. So I like Ladd, and that's probably it here. Josh Palmer looked pretty good. Valdez-Scantling has just been catching nothing but deep balls lately. So that is an interesting take. Take that for what you will. I haven't looked at any yardage for him or anything like that, but he's been catching a very long pass in each of the last 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So take a look at his longest reception prop. And the only other guy on this list I'm going to touch on, I've already mentioned before, but I'm going to reiterate, I think the squeaky wheel gets the grease here. I do think that they just try to get Neighbors the ball. You drafted him. The guy's attitude is devolving quickly. I think you've got to feed him the ball this week. And I truly do, that he just goes crazy this week because of that. If he gets the opportunity, I think he goes crazy. And because I think he's just a guy they got to keep happy. For the tight end position, we'll just touch on a couple of guys that are in good spots with good matchups. Cade Otton from Tampa Bay has a good matchup. Freiermuth, Kelsey, Jatavion Sanders, if he's there, I really like him this week. He is probably one of my favorite on the board, if not my favorite. Brock Bowers is also interesting because Vegas is going to have to feed arguably their best, maybe not arguably anymore, their best offensive player. And the other guy I'd look at is Hunter Henry. The Colts pass defense has just been downright bad lately. And I do think, though, that the Colts, this is a game they have to win. I think this is a game they do win. And I think this is a game they are ahead in. Maybe not by a lot because it's just not how good this team is right now. But I do think they get the lead, which means New England should be throwing the ball a little bit more. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say how much I appreciate you guys. In a week of Thanksgiving, I just want to say thank you guys to you. I'm grateful for you. Please do me a favor, like the video, comment, subscribe to the channel, and hop into the Discord. Let me know you saw this video and came over from YouTube. Have a great, great holiday with your friends and loved ones. And remember to bet smart and win more. Bucky Irving is a guy that's interesting to me. He's been over his 59.5, 60.5 on Prizepicks line. That's set.